that you're an international village boy. What do you want the rest of us to say? But thank you and welcome on board, sir. Thank you very much. Over to you, Engineer Tinoade Ogutui, our esteemed honorable engineer on board.
Honorable Tunde Odowosai, thank you so much. I couldn't just stop laughing at Dr. Akimbo's introduction. And honestly, on behalf of ISOC, I really want to celebrate
Thank you
this
very
man.
much.
Thank you, Dr. Akimbo. Okay, yeah, so my name is Tinuade Oguntui, and on this call, I'll be wearing two hats. One is as a co-chair of the Infrastructure Access and Connectivity Working Group, and secondly, as the GM Technical of ICSL, which is an ISP that is sophisticated enough to use any form of technology media to deploy services across Nigeria, be it urban, rural, or suburbs. We use microwave, VSAT, we use fiber, we use SIM cards, and we also deploy cloud when necessary. And this topic today is one that is really passionate for me as a person, even before sitting as a co-chair. Looking forward to the conversations that will come out from this webinar today. And I want to say congratulations to our working group for pulling this, and of course, special thanks to Engineer Tunde for his resilience. And maybe that's where our topic is also coming from today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Tinade Ogutui. Once again, my name is, and I'm sorry for this, I shall have introduced myself from start. My name is Olatunde Olafimio. I happen to be a co-chair for the Infrastructure Access Working Group within Internet Society of Nigeria, and we're really looking forward to creating this environment whereby we could share a lot within what's happening in Nigeria, and hopefully be able to take some decisions, influence stakeholders and policyholders within the country to be able to move internet infrastructure, broadband infrastructure forward within the country. Thank you once again, everybody, and welcome on board to this Fireside chat. I think with not much to do, we could actually kickstart and get the ball rolling. I'll start by going to Dr. Awal Abdullahi. Dr. Awal, looking at it over the years, you've been within this industry. What will you say is the digital snapshot in terms of access snapshot for Nigeria, in terms of significant progress that we've made in expanding digital access, especially looking at mobile penetration and fiber penetration within Nigeria?
Okay, so Tunde, for me, I think it will be nice for us to do justice, to first of all have a clear understanding of what digital infrastructure is all about. Sometimes when we sit down, whether we're in the sector or industry or have a background in electrical engineering, etc., we tend to be carried away and without carrying even our audiences along, especially some of the terminologies that might end up becoming jargons when people begin to hear about cloud services, fiber optics, etc. So I think it's better, first of all, to have a context, trying to understand what is digital infrastructure in the first place, and how do we make it resilient? And then by the time we make it resilient, how important it is to us. Before I answer your question, I just want to make people have clarity into what digital infrastructure is all about. So to put it in a very simple context, the digital infrastructure obviously is that connectivity that brings communications together, either through cable, which we usually call fiber optics, or mobile networks, which we have in the likes of our 2G, 3G, 4G, 5Gs, and the future maybe 6G. The cloud services, obviously, which we tend to host some of our data, and then a lot of things, and the power system. So, and when you have this, that helps you to communicate with one another, either in the space of voice communication, data communication, the use of internet, etc. that is exactly what we are talking about, the digital infrastructure space. And there's no gainsaying the fact that when you look at Nigeria currently today, where we are coming from, we're a population of over 230 million. And then the first NCC Act, which stipulate access to communication, voice, etc., make Nigerians to have access to mobile phones. And we've seen a migration from the traditional NITEL, where communication becomes a thing of privilege only for the few class, to somewhat what we have now, where we have well over almost getting to 200 million Nigerians have access to communication. But what kind of access to communication are we talking about? Like I rightly put it in the beginning, we have the voice communication, which is supported by the mobile networks. And we have also mobile internet communication, which is also supported by the mobile networks, but using different spectrum and different configuration. As of today, when you look at it, the Nigerian Digital Access as of January has 107 million internet users, which represent only 45% of the Nigerian population. So the question is that what happens to almost like 50-something percent population that don't have access to all this internet? So it is very important for us to begin to put perspective into it. The situation obviously has to do with, number one, the internet penetration. Now, internet penetration, obviously, you can say that it's almost like around between 60 to 65%. We still have a lot of villages that don't have access to internet. If you are traveling, you discover that there are a lot of gaps where some areas you see you have internet coverage, some areas you don't have. Even in the city, the coverage is not wholly. There are still some locations that are still using 3G, 2G, and then if they are lucky, they have the 4G and the 5G. And then also we talk about the digital services. How available are they? It is only recently that the Nigerian government have come up with a policy on what we call the financial and then digital inclusion. Now, the financial inclusion means that there are a lot of Nigerians, in fact, 2 years ago, we have more than 64% of Nigerians who are not on the banking services. Now, the question is that how can we digitally include them? Thanks to that policy, today we are seeing what OPay, what Money Points are doing. And as a result, I think currently the data shows that we have almost like around more than 60% of Nigerians financially included, but we still have a lot of villages not taken care of. Now, the other aspect that we also need to look at that is really giving us headache in terms of access to digital services has to do with affordability. Just recently, we saw how NCC has approved 50% increment for all the telco and then IT service providers on their services. Fine, is good because you need to protect the business. But at the same time, the question is that you are robbing Paul to pay Peter. Who are you really actually dealing with, or who do you really want to help? Do you want to help the teeming Nigerians to have access to all these digital services, or you want to help the infrastructure provider to thrive? So it's a very dicey situation, but I think I don't have anything against that increment. But I think the affordability is one factor. The other one has to do with infrastructure. Currently, we talked about the infrastructure deficit that is bedeviling the country. Well, thanks to the Project Bridge, which the Minister of Communication is championing, trying to see that virtually every local government across Nigeria is connected via the digital infrastructure, essentially the fiber optic. Talking about the 90,000 fiber deployment, which if it comes to light, certainly is going to address a lot of digital service access significantly. And then also the other one that has continued to work against us is the digital literacy. In fact, some times back, I was in Jigawa. We were talking with the government on how to provide connectivity to the communities, especially local government across. And then we discovered that, okay, while we are trying to do that, spending huge amount of resources, here come a bigger monster. And that monster is the fact that less than 10% of the workforce, the civil service workforce, uses internet, which is even the simplest one that we expect them to use. Less than 10% are using computer in their offices. So the question is that if you really want to push for this in terms of access to internet, in terms of access to digital service, the question is, how are you really taking the people that will use it? And then there's also a mindset issue. The mindset issue is the fact that some people have naturally developed phobia for use of internet and digital services. And essentially, some of them is because of corruption. I was privileged to have a discussion in one of the government parastatals where we are talking about digitalizing, transforming the organization in a digital form. And then a particular department said, take us off. We don't want to be part of it. And as a procurement department, why don't you want to be part of it? And the answer is no. If we are part of it, then obviously there are things that we cannot attend, which is usually coming from the power above. So these are some of the issues that we really need to address. And until we address them, we'll continue to have issue. I know over time, government have come up with a lot of initiatives to address this. In terms of making sure that e-governance is what it is in place, especially when you look at the Nigerian Immigration Service, the Nigerian Custom. Some ministries and parastatals have developed the use of these portals where if you want to access any information, you want to fill the form, etc. But we have a long way to go, and we have to make sure that not only government providing these services, but they need to ensure that those people who will end up becoming the beneficiary of those services have access to all these digital services and internet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Awal. You fully dissected our question, which is very good. And I think you've also used this opportunity to really enlighten the populace on what digital infrastructure is in Nigeria and where it is. The next question will go to Engineer Tinuade Oguntuyi. And basically, that will be, what are the risks? What are some of the risks that we have in expanding digital infrastructure without cybersecurity safeguards within the country?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Howe. You really dealt, you made it really granular and easy to really jump on. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Yeah, I think one of the advocacy in recent time had been security by design, so that we're not just putting up infrastructure. You know, every other time we'll say, oh, there is digital divide, and we are not breaking it down. And that's why I particularly like the way Dr. Howard actually dissected the whole of this composition, because it's a different thing. You give somebody a device, for instance, and they latch on the internet. If you give them a device and they latch on the internet, it means that the infrastructure is already there. But what will the person do on the internet, even when they understand English? We should even still take away the language barrier that comes, and they get into activities that make them compromise eventually. So I think the place of education is what we cannot overemphasize. And honestly, I am moving gradually away from the fact that being digital literate has to be that we can understand or speak English, because it seems to be that one barrier that still keep people away from knowing what to do or not to do online. And we cannot pretend with emergence of technologies like AI and all of that, sophistication is now coming at a speed even greater than light, perhaps if allowed. And that is the same reason why the way we treat security should be as such. I will also take it away a bit from just cybersecurity. The education should be all encompassing. Once I granted an interview and I was telling the person that interviewed me that, see, when somebody goes to destroy or vandalize an infrastructure because they want you to come back and they make some money off you, is a different motive entirely from somebody that believes we don't want Western education. Why are you bringing this to us? So we need to begin to address all the layers of security, and not just because at the end of the day, even if you build security by design into your infrastructure, if somebody comes and vandalizes it, it's still security issue. And thanks to the government for the critical network infrastructure and information bill and all that, and criminalizing if people destroy all of these. So we need to take the language of security to people in ways they can understand. If you click this, this is the likelihood. You begin to educate so that people know that a quick 2K to form 100K is just like you being the product that will definitely be pawned. So that awareness has to do, and that's why I'm really grateful for Internet Society, especially the Nigerian chapter, because we do a lot of work. I remember during Safer Internet Day in February, we went to public secondary schools to educate young ones on how they should teach or address security. And you know the sad part about security is this: if you think you're secured and your neighbor is not, eventually you are also going to be insecure at some point, because the person becomes a vulnerability or a loophole for anybody that wants to attack you to attack you. So we need to make it a culture that everybody belongs here, and we need to teach it. And digital literacy education and cybersecurity education should also be layered. You should not carry the sophistication of somebody that is selling cybersecurity as a service, for instance, to people that don't even understand what phishing is. So we need to layer it, and it has to be appropriate based on how exposed people are to all of this infrastructure or how far they've gone. So we go to rural communities, for instance, and we want to tell them, oh, you don't expose your card, you don't do this, you don't give your pins, you don't share your password with people. We begin to educate them. So now they are seeing it as part of things to also look out for when people come. That is from the user perspective. What about the people building the infrastructure? You know, sometimes when you click on some website, you will definitely get like that flash that comes to you and tells you this is pay attention to this. Even Cloudflare, most times if Cloudflare is the one backing a particular infrastructure, you will see it pop up and they will tell you one or two things. Because the age and time that we have, security is almost like what we breathe. You can have all the infrastructure for all you care. You can have internet surplus. You can have all the terabytes at the cable landing station. If it is not secured, it begins to create some form of concern that is even greater than the access that we want in the first place. And that's why you will see that one of the mantras of the Internet Society is that we want to build an internet that is secured, globally connected, trustworthy. There is reason for that, because if an infrastructure is not secured, then trust becomes a thing of concern. So you begin to see that they work very pursuit. I was giving somebody an instance that, do you know that most of the DDoS attack, which is like a denial of service attack that happens, are leveraged on breach or caught in infrastructure. So when people want to attack, we cannot build a resilient infrastructure. In other words, based on what is that when you have an infrastructure that is not stable, then cybersecurity becomes a thing that you also have to be concerned about, because you know, is either somebody is Lagos, for instance, has become really headache. If you do any fiber project in Lagos, you will know that it's not easy to lay fiber, because when you lay, miscreants will come, cut your cables, wait for you to come. And those times that all these breaches happen, the bad actors also leverage it to do attacks. So now it means that even all of the social engineering that comes into getting people to, exposing the maybe personal identity or information needs to be done clearly. In fact, and it's not just one side of it. Even SMEs, MSMEs, the people in the market, like, let's take this education everywhere. Because as we are, as users, are trying to be safe, then the infrastructure builders also need to educate, because what's the essence though? They say if the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. So somebody can just take their cup and go and take water from a latrine because it's still water anyways, but you need to educate that that's not drinkable water, is not healthy. So you begin to educate, even as an infrastructure provider, to the end users. Not until then, collaboratively, we will build a stronger and a resilient infrastructure, both as a user and as a builder. That's what I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Tinuade. I think at Internet Society, Nigerian chapter really thrived under the leadership of Engineer Kunle Olorundare. And like you said, there's a lot that is being done to create that much awareness around internet, around the country for users. And it's one key thing that we're looking forward to. And I believe that's also the reason why we're having this fireside chat, so that we could create a bit more awareness to the populace around us. I'll come over to you, Dr. Owl. In terms of innovations, what are the promising features we'll be looking at for digital inclusion in rural areas within Nigeria? You know, like you said in earlier on, I think the rural areas are a lot less covered in terms of digital infrastructure. So what innovations will we be looking at to be able to provide wider coverage for rural areas? Thank you.
Okay, I think Tunde, just like Madam Tinuade talked about the digital divide, and sometimes the challenges that especially such divides is posing to our society. But fundamentally, I just want us to have a clarity into the biggest challenges that such divide is even bringing. So that's why we begin to have what we call the rural decay and urban dislocation. So when you don't provide in the rural, the tendency for those people in the rural to come back to the city to begin to enjoy what you deprive them becomes sacrosanct because they have to leave. Now, when you look at the case of Nigeria, which is our major focus, obviously, you discover that more than 70% of the population in Congo are staying in the rural areas. So the question is that we need to make sure that we have reached them with whatever digital inclusion that we need to do. I know governments over time have come up with a lot of initiatives, which I'm going to also talk about. And we'll also look at the innovation that players in the digital space will have to in order to reach out to the digital, to the rural areas. But before then, we need to have clarity into what constitutes a rural area and what kind of economic activities predominate or is more predominant, that at least we need to take some of these solutions to them and then ensure that they are connected with the rest of the world, not only for their economic benefit, but also for our own economic benefit. Now, we know that agriculture is the main dominant activities of the rural people. Today, there are a lot of farmers, when they farm whatever they farm, not only that they cannot access the larger society to sell it at a better price, we too that we need it in a more affordable price, we cannot even access it. So we're at the mercy of the middlemen who will carry some rickety vehicles, pass through all the bushes, and then bring it, and here we are. Imagine we have an internet connectivity, and then these people are digitally literate enough to understand that they can snap picture and then maybe post it in any of the platform that maybe the state is going to provide and what have you. Be rest assured that is going to also address a fundamental problem. That's number one. Because I can have access to wherever yam is, the quantity, and then who owns it and what have you. That's number one. Today, we are battling with not only Boko Haram, but we are battling with banditry, especially in some part of Nigeria, as a result of something very fundamental that people don't know. Because many people, when you ask them, why banditry? How did banditry come into be? Honestly, you might be shocked to realize that people don't know. But let me tell you, banditry was as a result of negligence on the path of government to introduce technology into the means and process of which the headsmen do their cattle rearing. So cattle wrestling has already bedeviled the entire part of the Northwest and the Northeast. And then also farmer headers crisis is another factor, so much that things are done and you don't know who has done them. However, over time, we have developed a solution. And I think I must give credit to MTN, where I was coming from, where they partner with a blue chip company to develop what we call the animal identification and management system. It was a chip, very small chip, biodegradable, that will be implanted into a cow. And that chip, with a small scanner, it will tell exactly who owns the cow, where the cow is coming from. And then, so before you sell that cow, that scanner will reveal the authenticity of the person. So if anybody decided to steal somebody's cow and take it to, say, Lagos Abattoir will not address that cow because it belonged to somebody, his details are there, they will call him. If we do that, that will address significantly the rate at which a Fulani man with hundreds of cattle will wake up one day and have nothing. Fulani man value his cow more than his life. And if you take his 100 cows away, be rest assured the next thing you will find him in a bush with a gun hunting for human beings. And that was the genesis. And that's how it started. And that's exactly what a technology can do to address that digital divide. So, not to digress away from Tunde's question, obviously, number one, we need to make sure that we have infrastructure. Now, we all know that deploying infrastructure, because that's my work, at BCN, that is what we do, is our bread and butter to provide connectivity. And I know how much it costs me to be able to provide that connectivity for other operators from Sokoto down to Zaria, down to Abuja. I know how impactful it is in terms of financial cost. However, we can augment that by the use of satellite. Thank God we have the NATCOMSat. And I think that is exactly what they should begin to tailor towards providing that satellite coverage in most of these rural areas. And I know over time, the government has partnered with some private in the organization, the likes of the telecom mobile operators, to provide what we call the rural telephony network. That in itself will address some of the infrastructure deficit such that people will be able to be connected. Now, I know that there are some banks that are also working tirelessly to ensure they have what they call offline wallet activity. So in terms of the financial inclusion, it means that the village people can also do their financial activity without necessarily bothering about whether there is network or there is no network. But that's going to be for a very interim situation, so that the POS agent or whoever the agent will have to look for where there's an internet and then come and synchronize whatever activity that has been done and then move. Now, the other aspect that we're talking about has to do with the literacy, the digital literacy that we need to bring on board. We are, in fact, it's not against saying the fact that today, when you go to most villages, even from their schools, you will notice that most of these young lads, they don't even know what about internet. By the time you ask them to use it, they become jittery. I had been to a village where we wanted to train the teachers on the use of internet. Some of them, their hands were shaking. And you'll be wondering, what is the problem? This is not something that is going to kill you. It's something that is for you to use. So we need to understand that. And also we need to make sure that private organizations are brought into the picture, even though they have fears in investing in rural areas because their belief is that where is the money coming from? But fundamentally, government need to be there to provide the core infrastructure. Now, when you provide the core infrastructure, all the platforms that can lay on the core infrastructure that can connect to the rural areas and connect the people in the rural areas will not be a difficult thing. We have our young, talented individual professionals, software engineers, and what have you. Last year, I was in Kano for what they call the Arewa Tech Fest. And I was surprised. A young boy came up with an AI tool that will be able to dictate, number one, to the villagers, number one, when it's going to rain, Number two, when they should apply the fertilizer in their farms. Number three, the quantity of water they need to apply after applying the fertilizer. Number four, a lot of things. But that is a platform, and all these rely heavily on the availability of digital infrastructure that will enable it. So for me, the innovation that we should see, obviously, is how we can fragment the use of the infrastructure and make it available. If we don't have fiber optic, obviously we should resort to the use of satellite, which is very important. Number two, like I rightly said on the financial inclusion, let's see how we can also do it offline. In the absence of internet, obviously people should still go ahead and then use their, what do you call it, their internet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Awal. I think you are giving us an extensive breakdown into the challenges we have in Nigeria, and that's what this Fireside chat is really about. To be able to capture what we need to do to provide resilient digital infrastructure in Nigeria. Thank you so much. So I'll come over to you, Engineer Tinuade. Looking at what has happened across the country over the past couple of years, yes, we're growing. Digital inclusion is beginning to have an effect in Nigeria. Yeah, we moved past what it used to be back in the days where you have long queues in banks for people to be able to complete transactions. Now we have a lot of mobile transactions ongoing. Yes, it might still be something that is not covering every other person, but there's a key thing that is happening, and I'm coming back to you on this. We're expanding digital access, but the key thing from what you've told us earlier on is about cybersecurity. What are the key cybersecurity risks that you see emerging in underserved areas at the moment? So just as Dr. Awol said, so a couple of rural areas do not have. What are the cybersecurity risks that we think they're exposed to because they're underserved at the moment? Engineer Tinuade, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Howard, thank you so much once again. I just wanted to quickly touch on some things that Engineer said, and I'll come back to this quickly. And I like that part when he was talking about the rural telephony. And, I'm also an ambassador of Internet Society. And every opportunity that we have, we also talk about what this great community is doing. The Internet Society Foundation is also there to help in sponsoring things like community networks so that the rural doesn't get left out in all of this, and not just building community networks that will stay maybe 6 months and will leave it, because continuity and the sustainability greatly is also what is important. So I also enjoy, as many that are on this call, maybe you're working in underserved communities or you have people there, please, we can also take advantage of what the Internet Society Foundation is doing. Then I'll quickly touch on what is said about the rural telephony. I happened to deploy rural telephony project about 4 years ago, and the state then in question was Bayelsa, and this particular town had not been able to make calls before on their soil, and the very day we turned on this, and which is alluding to the point that Dr. Awa also mentioned about, complementing with satellite, because these are areas that for return on investment, providers don't want to take fiber there. They don't want to put large microwave radios, which are the radios that probably can travel far distance and carry larger capacity. So we leverage satellites in this location. And by the time we did this project and we turned on the link, the chief of this particular town called, and you could tell from his voice, and you could sense that he had people that were surrounding him, and he was teary and saying, God bless you, God bless you. You people made me to make call on my own soil. Because what had happened prior to this time is that they will go miles to go and make calls, or, because not everybody will be able to go. You still see in these rural communities, even if by chance they have ATM, because maybe they go for transactions or market runs in other towns, they give their ATM cards to just one person who travels with all the cards with their pins, and we go and help them to withdraw money. which of course, I wanted to link it to what you were saying, is the facility is not there. So if I have a card and I need to use ATM and I need to travel to do that, and somebody is going, that means just like the common and larger thing that you do, the person goes around and collect people's card, get their pins, and we go and let them withdraw money. What happens if this person run away with all these cards or get compromised? Of course, most times they are trusted people, but anything can happen because we're humans. So Dr. Howe also mentioned the case of where they got to a place and they were trying to introduce digital devices to the community and they were shaky and because that is the thing. Maybe one or two things that comes to their mind is that, oh, we've not seen this before, or prior to exposing them to these digital devices, oh, with this, you can connect with somebody so. And, they can't even comprehend that, oh, this is all this can do. And out of this excitement, carelessness even setting, which is not completely because they want to, but they can't do more than what their knowledge is about some of these devices or infrastructure. So they also just get trapped, all in the name of, have you not noticed, if you give a child a device, for instance, I'm just using a child for instance, they just want to explore everything that is there and probably even take pictures that they don't know is going to your Google Photos, and maybe Google Photos will bring it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they don't even know where to stop. That is why I am saying that we cannot overemphasize education and literacy. And education in this case is, you are not sending somebody to the market without letting them know that in the market, there are people that want to sell truthfully and there are people that want to just dupe you. And when you put the cautiousness, everybody begins to sit up to, and also see it in the language and ways they can understand. Storytelling. Okay, I'm part of the community of practice with MetaSafe Online. And what we used to encourage, especially for the seniors, you will be shocked. Who are the people that do platform broadcasting most? They will say they shared it on our platform and they will send one WhatsApp broadcast to you. They click something, you win something, eat something, because they don't even have that education. So what we begin to do is to use things that they can also identify with, which is storytelling, jingles. Let's do dramas. Let's organize drama and use some of these dangers, show it in the drama. Let them come together, see that, oh, if you give somebody, the person can go at the back. If you say one thing, this is how communication is preserved. So you line them up, for instance, and you tell this person, say to the last person that I don't like what you're doing, and let them pass it amongst themselves till you get to the 10th person. And the person that will say the last thing is saying, I don't like everything everybody is doing in this town. So you're already teaching them how to preserve communication and they are getting it. And that is why I was trying to emphasize and establish the other time that there are layers to security and also layers to how people know all of these things. And you cannot bring all of the sophistication in the SME way or in the urban. Now, when I want to teach somebody about security, I'm like, okay, even people that don't know anything about cybersecurity can buy cybersecurity as a service and still do fraudulent activities. But come on, this is somebody just getting used to how to use a device. They don't even know all of this sophistication. So it might not just be appropriate for their own knowledge. So he's breaking it down, and enough of copy and paste. Or something is happening, we just want to bring it. Okay, so we talk about the IoT devices, for instance, to sensor the cows or the cattle or even the soil. But the truth is that even with IoT devices, which is Internet of Things, we have more bridges coming by the day. And that's why I established the first time I spoke about sophistication as AI is emerging. Do you know is even now, even without us, all of us on this call being maybe cybersecurity people, we can get some AI tools that can probably just help us with some form of pen testing, vulnerability test, and even cause harm, just because of the sophistication. So all of this embedded, and that's why I established that security by design is a must look at. Is not a choice thing. It's not something that we have to negotiate, especially for the people in the underserved communities. That innocent man in the community that Dr. Howard talked about now had done this AI to sense and all of that. But do you know the truth? If he's not securing those AI codes and all of that, it might cost more harm than even the good he intended it to be. Because if you start bringing false statistics, then it begins to mislead. So that security is, and I was speaking on West African Internet Governance Internet Governance Forum, and I was saying that security, as we have physical health education taught in schools, should also be embedded now. We should start learning the ABC of security. And in our storytelling, in our adverts, in our jingles, even in these underserved communities, we need to start showing it so that they begin to learn it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Tinade. I think you've done justice to what security we need to really take into consideration, especially when it comes to the rural areas and the digital inclusion we want to have for them, because really they're underserved in Nigeria at the moment, and I think we've got quite a large number of people within those underserved areas. And like you said, it's a lot of risk. So we hear a lot of the stories around people being defrauded, people losing money, just because they're really not well educated. So I think we're at a point in Nigeria where we need to really spread as much as possible enough information across the country on what people need to do. Back in the days, there used to be jingles on radios, whereby you get notified on what to do. I think we need to go back to that in Nigeria at the moment, so that people can be more aware of what is around their surrounding and how to keep their data in. And today, like you said about AI, your data is very important, because with the simple AI tool, you actually can tweak anything. This morning, I was watching a clips of Ujude Oba, and they had videos of The Rock, they had videos of Will Smith, a lot of American actors on horses. Those guys were not even near there. They were not there. But, with AI, they've included these guys as if, yeah, they were part of the Judio Bar. I know for anybody that doesn't know, you will fall for it. You see that and feel, wow. So these guys came for Ojudio Bar. Yeah. And that's just what technology could do today. In honest truth, so, we need to really advocate cybersecurity. We need to do a lot of education now, videos, jingles in and around our communities, so that people know that there's a lot happening and they need to be able to protect and keep themselves. Anyhow, still in line with that, Dr. Awal, I'd like to find out, what's your take on protecting communities from online fraud? Just like engineer Ali spoke about, it's something that is around there. It's there today.
So Tunde, when you were talking, I was laughing. Sometimes our focus is always thinking, oh, this is what is happening with the village people in the rural areas and what have you. So much that in Nigeria we have what we term as village people are after you. So when it comes to digital fraud, and I think with all apologies, despite the fact that we have a lot of talents to show across the world in terms of the IT technology, so we equally have the other side that has made us very attractive in the negative way, as in terms of fraud. Globally, I think Nigeria is ranking, I don't know, maybe number one, based on some data that I've checked. But I hope that is going to change. Now, honestly, to say the least, when we are talking about some of the successes that we have recorded in fighting fraud, especially in the digital space, one thing came to my mind, and I used this opportunity to make it as practical as possible. When I saw the JAM registrar shedding tears, I couldn't help but shed tears alongside him, because I knew what this man fought from day one to make the JAM result to this level of integrity to what it is. Many people were not there in the battle. But I worked with him closely to ensure that happened, to the extent that Professor Ishak Oloide would walk on the street of the core headquarters of Yahoo in Benin, and then get some people arrested, and then bring them on board in his boardroom to say that, okay, the only way you can free yourself is I want you to crack into this server to do what you usually do. What do? They will crack into the Jam server, go and change result, put them the way they want. By the time you enter the website, even Jam IT cannot hold board to say, okay, this is their result, print it and give it to them. But this was something that some guys from nowhere are doing it in a remote village somewhere in Edo. But this man worked tirelessly to ensure that that doesn't happen any longer. And I can tell you today, nobody can tell you that he cracked into Jam server in order to manipulate any results. So kudos to him. But then it is what it is. No matter how you have done beautifully well, that 1% that is a factor, some people is what they will see, and then they will go against you. And then also bringing down to memory what happened with INEC, IREP, and what have you. I was live there in INEC's tuition room, and I was just laughing at the director of IT there and then, Mr. Pascal. I was laughing at him because we are witnessing, we are seeing everything. Immediately, the results started uploading. I discovered the director himself cannot log into the IT, and I just laugh and I say, "Here we go." So they have gone after you. They have come after you. So honestly, in today's rapid world, evolving digital world, technology is not just transforming how we communicate or how we transact. It is reshaping our entire system, whether we like it or not, from governance to education to healthcare to financial services, which were mostly, vulnerable. Sometimes I wonder, all these Ponzi scheme, they are part of all these digital scheme that people manipulate. And somehow you see even the literate ones are the ones falling victim. Till tomorrow, people will come to you with an issue that my WhatsApp has been hacked. Your WhatsApp can never be hacked until when you open the door for you to be vulnerable. So the question is that even if at this age, people in the cities, people in the most advanced areas of life are becoming vulnerable, it tells you that they will have a lot to do in terms of addressing these challenges. Now, so the question is that what exactly do we need to be doing? First of all, we will not resist. And I think the Internet Society of Nigeria has a role to play. That digital literacy need to be addressed, because some of the challenges that is making people to become vulnerable is the literacy. They don't know, I don't know, I should have known. Now, the other one has to do with the social and psychological barriers. When we talk about people, when that happened to them, they don't want to speak because to them it's a shame. If I tell them, they will laugh at me and what have you. So because of that, I shouldn't say anything. And sometimes the high trust in even in authority sounding communication makes them more susceptible or deception. The way they have you noticed a situation where somebody call you from a bank? I have experienced that. Somebody called me from a bank, mentioned all my name, full details. The only thing that person did not know is my account number and then the security pin that I need to give the person. And then the moment the person said, "Oh, begin to give me this," and I say, "Here you come, my brother. I am at that level now, don't worry, but I will help you. This number, you're not going to use it again, so I will get it blocked." So sometimes it's the dependency on intermediaries. We tend to get our access to information sometimes from family members and other people that we think are good enough. Meanwhile, some of them obviously are manipulators. I have seen physically where a son has manipulated his dad, to commit fraud on his account. So those are the kind of challenges that we are facing. But like I rightly said, to address some of this problem, obviously, the Internet Society, the civil society organization, the Computer Association of Nigeria, the mobile network operators have to do a lot. When you look at it, recently I noticed something. I think it's on Facebook. It's on Facebook. So when somebody befriends you and then decide to send you a message, before you respond the message, there will be a notification that tells you that, okay, one of the sign that this particular person is fraud is by the time they begin to make an unsolicited request. So at least that is sensitizing you. And I know sometimes the mobile operators also do that. When you hear this, somebody requesting this, it tells you that this is fake. And just recently, in partnership with NCC, they are sending even message to sensitize people on digital infrastructure to say that, okay, they are national asset and they are important to your communication. So when you see somebody vandalizing them, it's a problem. So we need to all come together as one umbrella to begin to now, let me say, create what I call bundle proposition, if I will call it that way. How do I mean by bundle proposition? So, for example, the financial inclusion, you understand, should make it in such a way that at least it's very easy to detect if somebody has a fake account. It is we all witness a situation where somebody will defraud you, give you account, you make a payment, you go to bank, it becomes another history. Bank need to be involved. They need to really help the matters. And that's why sometimes I like what the mobile operator does. They have a wing of what I would call crime, what do you call it, detection area, where once somebody called and said, this number attempted to defraud me, they have their own requirement, they have their own checks where they will go to, and if that is confirmed, the number will automatically be blocked almost permanently, and then alert be sent to all the service stations so that if that person come to claim that number, obviously that person will be arrested. And that's what we need to see the bank doing that, where a lot of things are happening. Transaction alert is very important, guys. Very, very important. In fact, some of us will be thinking the 1 naira, 25 naira that we're going to spend to receive such alert is heavy. Look, it has happened to me. I went to a filling station and then I bought a fuel. Thanks to the price increment and removal of subsidy, it was 50,000, I guess. And the person now debited me 55,000. I used card to pay. And I did not see the alert instantly until when I started moving. And then suddenly I saw an alert of 55,000. So I had to make a U-turn quickly. And I said, bro, why are you removing 55,000 when it's supposed to be 50,000? Okay, sorry. In fact, I noticed it. I was just about to call you. I don't have your number. I said, just give me my 5,000. Let me go. So that's exactly what people are. So we need to make sure that we get that kind of notification instantly. Is it by email? Is it by SMS? Whatever. Now, the other one is the level of authentication that we need to do whenever we are registering our devices, our platforms, etc., where we need to make sure it has the step-by-step verification process, where if it is your picture that is need to be captured and what have you, or if you need to see somebody's picture, phone and email, and you've not seen it, don't trust that website, don't trust that application, make sure you do it. And then also we have what we call the visual legitimacy cues, like verified badges, like I said, official logos, and consistent branding. But all this boils down to digital literacy, which even me and you at our level need to really have that constantly in place. Otherwise, we'll continue to play the prey for all these, what do you call it, vultures. Because to tell you the truth, many people cannot differentiate between an authentic website and then a fake website. So much that anytime they are sent information, the next thing they click, here we go. And so we need to understand, Madam has explained to us and made us to understand the different types of even cyber crime, cyber attack that does happen. And then they come in different ways. Sometimes it's in the form of phishing. They will come, they will send something to you. Looks, you have won something. And then here, Nigerians will want money, flip. And then the next thing, you are vulnerable. All your information are open. So I think it's all up for us to really be guided. And then we need to continue to seek knowledge on how, because they are not sleeping as well. They are coming with different ways. If you block this way, they will think of another way. If you block this way, and come to think of it, if today we are seeing how Yahoo, well, I cannot identify any person, but then if we are seeing the way they are displaying with affluence, money, riches, and whatever, it tells you they are succeeding. So much that a woman was interviewed, what do you want your son to be? She said Yahoo. So it tells you that we are still vulnerable, a lot of us. And it's through this digital literacy and also what do you call it, the financial industry and other industry need to put all the necessary protection to help the society at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Awal. Thank you for shining so much light onto the challenges we have at the moment. We're really grateful for this talk. Dr. Akimbo, please, I will be coming to you now. And I'm looking at you speaking to what challenges we have at the moment in terms of how can we create innovation, low-cost cybersecurity solutions that can be scaled for wide access. Because in all honesty, a major challenge we have today is cybersecurity from what Engineer Tinuade and Dr. Awal have spoken about. It's something that is affecting the entire populace. So we're looking at what do you think? What's your own opinion in terms of innovation, local cybersecurity solutions that can be scaled for wide access within the country?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. And when you say wider access, you mean all over Nigeria, if possible, at the same time. You mentioned the word innovation. And when you look at the word innovation, it may be out of the box or mostly out of the box tools or platforms or systems that could actually ensure that the average you and I are informed and able to assess such a toolkit in question. So I'll start first of all from taking us back to where we are. We are the internet society. And the first thing we're always thinking about is every individual. Unfortunately, we had something called Global Encryption Day. At the Global Encryption Day, the whole idea about Global Encryption Day is to ensure that you and I know about the word encryption, which is all around online safety, online security, to be able to protect yourself. So each year that we have what we call the Global Encryption Day, we are looking for solutions that can come to the grassroots that you and I can be able to access. But don't forget, we cannot talk about encryption when we don't have the internet. I told you before now, I'm an international village boy. So for the Salah, where did I go to? I went to my mother's place in Ipokia. Ipokia is situated in Yewa under Ogun State. And I went to visit my grandpa and my relatives. There was access. In fact, we're lucky. We had three different poles, satellite poles, very close to each other. So the internet was perfect. But digital literacy was absent. So if I have to talk about innovation, the first thing I would say is that we need to conquer the 774 local government plus. And the best way to conquer them is to have grassroots support. I'm fortunate to be Vice President, Internet Society Nigerian chapter. But when it comes to rural village ad work things, I'm Success Bridge Community Development Foundation. And that's what we do. We go to the rural area. That's where the money is. Not money, physical money. But like Engineer Awal mentioned, Dr. Awal mentioned, he mentioned it, and I felt like crying for my country. He mentioned agriculture. And he's looking for a way to take the middleman out of the equation. One, to make the food affordable. Two, to make the product accessible, which is a plus for a nation that wants money. So when we bring cybersecurity into this, we must add digital strength to it. So I was getting down something I just want to go back to it. He mentioned the word intranet. He didn't mention it directly, but he said offline. We should be able to work offline. And the best way to do this is to create, as Internet Society, create a platform that allows you and I to communicate, which is what we are coming back to, which is something we spoke about in the West African Internet Governance Forum, community network. They are very low-hanging fruit. People assume that community network is all about digital. But today, like I said, I'm multitasking. I was at an ICANN meeting very early this morning, and someone mentioned, oh, we need to be able to connect with each other. The only way you and I can connect is if the internet is close to me. Tinade mentioned rural telephone. How much does it cost? Our company would want to install it, not for free. There is the right of way. That should be a fundamental digital right. So before my innovation can also thrive, I must wait for that policy to go into action, or else, no matter how much pap and big cake, in a way to stigmatize local languages, we look for English names for our food. The rural name for the two things I've just mentioned is Eko and Moi Moi. But they want us to lose our local content. Another thing that we can sell online that we can use to make profit in our various villages. All of these are tied. So when we talk cybersecurity, when we talk encryption, when we talk security, and we are looking at innovation, we cannot jettison the power of digital penetration. Again, we all know, and Dr. Awa can bear me witness, we all know what we call the critical national infrastructure. Everybody knows that. Then there's a policy going on now that we'll do digital literacy, but we know a lot of things are not happening. And like my previous speaker, Tinade has also mentioned, the Internet Society Nigerian chapter is always doing its best to get to this rural area. Have we ever thought of sticking with a language that says critical digital literacy? When we understand that this is very critical, that you must speak it to me in the language I understand, Yoruba language, Igbo language, Hausa language, and other dialects. The ability to put before you a new innovation to make you understand all about security online becomes more easier. My great-grandfather has a huge land, very huge land. Now, that huge land is protected by just farming, no fence. And each time you get to a particular farm, you will discover a particular tree, to be precise, an oak tree. They cannot digitize it at that time, but they can mark it with things that are very, very hard to miss. So I would be, wrong to say, oh, let's hit it from the top. It has to be a bottom-up approach, multi-stakeholder driven. On that note, I would say, oh, let's all become a member of the Encryption Advocates Council, something we formed 3 years ago. Now, the Encryption Advocates Council is trying what you have just asked, how to create innovations that addresses issues of security and shows our resilience, no matter the critical stage that we are. We do not need to reinvent some things. We just need to know the language to bridge the gap. That's the word, to bridge the gap. And if we are able to catch this early enough, we can be able to address so many issues, like when Dr. Awa was talking, he mentioned spaces, dead zones, no service area. They're still available along the roads to my own village. And I know that if I want to empower people around that area, I have to take care of dead zone. I know NCC is doing a lot. I can't take that away from NCC. I know NIDA is also trying to do a lot, especially with our recent discussion where we are looking at going to community network already supported by NIDA and make sure those community networks have people like you and I, like Engineer Tunde, and Dr. Akimbo say, we have platforms that we can bring to those places. And we do not have to be physical. All we just need is for them to be connected to the internet, for them to have power, and then we can be able to train them. I can be in Lagos and be training people in Kano, Kaduna, and Sokoto simultaneously. So NIDA has that already. The number of places they have empowered with community networks. NCC has such also, digital bridge. The digital bridge, they have it all across the country. If we begin to work together, especially understand that the Internet Society Nigeria chapter is clamoring for internet for everyone, then we are doing what you call a deep dive. So if I bring a little tool and tell you, this is how to protect your farm, this is how to protect your card, this is how to protect your email password, because some of those phone numbers, sir, that were used for fraudulent purpose was actually hijacked from someone who had no intention of using it for such purposes. So when we block the number, and the person wants to go and retrieve the number, and the person is arrested, we have arrested the wrong person. So the only way to do is begin to say, how do we combine all our efforts to address the issue of insecurity? And on this platform, before I wrap up, I want to introduce one small innovation that is not so new, but we seem to not use it in Nigeria. Why do I need my BVN and my name to be captured all the time? Why do I need it to be captured all the time? But the minute all agencies, the MDAs, ministries, the departments, agencies of government are working together, and they're able to say, have a level of clearance. I know Engineer Tunde is into cybersecurity. He will be dealing with financial issues. Put him on clearance Deptford 3. So when you're on Delta 3, you can access my account background, my account history. But Engineer Chinoade is a senior police officer. She can only access my crimes, past crimes, and my individual person where I'm living. That way we have a single database co-joined together, and we can easily address the issue of empowering the average individual. Last year, and this is not done on purpose, last year, I used a particular bank to make a transfer that was supposed to be an instrumental transfer. When I felt that there was something wrong, I contacted the bank that received the money. The bank that received the money said, oh, this account exists, but we don't know them. And I'm like, we have name, we have BVN. How come you don't know them? I contacted the company that owns the name. And I said, you have an account with so-so bank. And they're like, no, we don't have an account with so-so bank. But the account number and name read, the account and name read your name. So how come you can't trace it? And then I tell my bank, go to them and talk to them. The other bank is saying, oh, we are ready to send you the money. My bank is saying, hold on. And this has been up for 1 year. It is happening to me. What is happening to the average Nigerian? We need to rethink this challenge, and I know we will get there soon. Thank you.
Dr. Akimbo, thank you so much. Having you as a honorable VP for Internet Society has been a blessing. You've opened up a can of a lot of things, and I know for me, a takeaway that I've always said, and I'll reiterate from what you said is synergy. I'm one of the proponents of people asking question, why do you have multiple data in Nigeria? We do not need it. We have data in too many places. So I have data with road safety, I have with NIN, I have with BVN, I have international passport, I have with the mobile network. And I'm like, why am I keeping my data? Everybody just collecting my data over and over again, which can easily be accessed from a single platform. And, we're just in this place where, it's the reality of us creating a synergy to be able to move the country forward. And I think when we'll have that, even the underserved are so-called local areas that we think are susceptible to this kind of cyber crimes will also be a lot much more secured. Because like you said, it's a bit of a challenge. And I'll try to backtrack. My father passed on, someone stole his phone and was able to open an account with his phone. Until tomorrow, nobody can tell me how. His part is late, it's no more. But you have an account open in different microfinance banks. And I'm like, how? So how did you open without his face, his full details, and someone says it's him? And I'm like, are you guys for real? Someone has passed on. How? How can we not have this and it has a death certificate locked with National Population Commission? I'm like, so how come this is not a database that is accessible to everybody? But I think we're going to get to that point where we're able to put every of our data in one single space. Engineer Tinade, if I can come to you, and I think we're almost about close towards the end. So, question for Engineer Tinade is, and I'll need your answer in maybe 2-3 minutes. Is mobile internet enough in Nigeria, or do we need major fixed broadband investment in rural areas?
Well, I still get a little not so convinced when we give all these statistics and data about, oh, this is the amount of mobile internet. Because if I ask averagely on this call, Dr. Akibo has maybe like 4 phones, if I'm correct. And he signs on all of these, and somebody counts, it's just one person, yet with 4 devices. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I don't think we have it enough, which is not to also say that we don't need fixed wired. But let's look at it. If you take a mobile internet to the underserved and the rural community, will it serve the purpose at least for whatever it is required for? I think is that applicability we should look at, not necessarily the number or that penetration in that wise that, oh, is it mobile internet? Because with your smartphone these days, honestly, you can do a lot of things depending on how maybe sophisticated this is. And when it comes to even the financial inclusion part, honestly, the fintechs are doing an amazing job, even with mobile network operators. Well, even without internet, it's just reconnecting to 2G, 3G or something, you can do USSD and all of that. So for me, I think when we get to those critical intended applications of delivery, yes, we'll need the fixed wire because then it's more reliable. But the truth is that just imagine it, if you have your MiFi, it has power bank embedded. You can still stay off grid for a while and work with it. But if it's fixed wired most times, you need to power it either with anything. Solar is a good way to go, but cost of ownership itself isn't cheap, which we know, right? So I think let's even get people connected. And I like the fact that Dr. Akimbo also mentioned that intranet part, quoting what Dr. Awa said, because many times I think connectivity will only streamline it to internet. And the truth is that somebody was telling me about a GPU device he got from Microsoft when he went to the US for the conference, and NVIDIA gave them people that answered questions or something. And he said what he intended to do with that GPU that they gave him is to take it to a school in Ogun State, because he lives in Ogun State, and he's going to create some LLMs about their school and all information about their subject. And he's just going to put it maybe in the principal's office, and they will just do like wireless devices that they can use it to project, and people will work. And this is completely outside of the internet. It's just like a wired network, LAN area connection. You understand? So for me, I don't think mobile internet is too much, or I think let's just get people connected to be able to teach them to know, all these things we have even said. We have not even talked about the people that are disabled, people that need voice assisted tools, and people that probably need things to. We are still looking at underserved or unreached people that are all able, in quotes. You understand? So there is even a lot to do. Let's even get the mobile internet there before we now begin to count, oh, is it enough or not? But the basics, all the rudiments that needs to be done. Because at the end of the day, this session is looking at seamless connectivity and data security, right? We can be victims of our sources if we are not careful. We have seamless connectivity, but our data is not secured or our information is breached. You understand? So I think let's even get it out there first. Thank you.
Before you run off, what excites you about the 90,000 kilometers by the minister across the 774 local governments in Nigeria? That's taking off what Dr. Akimbo spoke about. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think even Dr. Awa mentioned it when he was talking to, and Dr. Akimbo also re-emphasized it. When you get people connected, it's a form of empowerment one way or the other. But don't just throw it at them. Let them know. Remember, I said if the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. You will not carry 90,000 kilometer fiber into local government and they sit down and be watching TikTok and be watching Meta and be dancing when they are supposed to. Do you understand? So that they know that this is an empowerment tool for connectivity to get our works faster, better, to connect people and to serve more people at a very minimal time frame and all of that. So that education, we cannot separate it. Don't just dump things. You will not go and dump infrastructure that will kill those people eventually. or will make them less productive. You understand? Or even bring attacks on the network. So that's what I'm saying, that is an exciting one. Honestly, it is very, very. I think there's nobody that will be in internet society that initiative won't be exciting too, because truly this is what we advocate every other time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Janadi. Dr. Akimbo, just quickly, what's your take on policies for affordable internet? For Nigeria, I know you've spoken a lot just now, but what do you think about the policies? How can we get these policies to be much more effective and to have inclusion in it?
Okay, so so it does not look as if I'm trying to romance government or tease service providers. I'm on their side. I would never invest in something that doesn't pay me. As an investor, you want to put money and make money with it. So I would never want to do that. But there's something missing. And that's when we come to the word policy. You know, when you say accessible, policies that are around accessibility and affordability, are they working in Nigeria? So the average West African, it seems as if they are working. Some people say we have the lowest amount of price or cost for data. When you pay, let me look at it, 5,500 for 6 gig. And so when a particular ISP was mentioned, or service provider or teleco was mentioned, you know, when the best is, when your worst is actually your best, you can't deny it. You really have to give it a thumbs up, whether you like it or not, because they are going miles ahead of others. They are trying to be, let me use the best way to describe it, trying to be empathic, but at the same time, looking at their investments. They don't want to be able to say, let me sack 1 million person. The internet affordable for a billion person. So I understand it. And I would also want to say they seem to be the best. I don't need to mention their name, they know themselves. But the truth is that we as stakeholders, stakeholders in a multi-stakeholder ecosystem, talking to government and looking at policy implementation, we need to look out for how to do tax waivers, how to ensure that we support the telecos in such a way and manner they can go to rest and say, oh, that is going to cost us 2 trillion. But government has said on the short run, they are giving us 2 years. On the long run, it will pay everyone. Why? In that 2 years, make people more aware on why they should use the community networks, either provided by government and supported by other organizations, walk into the fry. And at the end of the 2 years, we still give them another 2 years. At that point in time, you and I already know the benefit of what has been given to us. And then we start making payment at that 2 years. Don't forget that there's still a waiver on ground. So in the long run, the people become your security. They now know the value of what is at their beck and call. In the United States, and apologies for me, United States, there was a year, for years, there was a budget by government, I think $250 million every year for schools. Don't pay a dime. Just go there and use it. Don't pay a dime. Go there and use it. After a period of time, everybody understood that they were hooked on it. This thing is actually making life bearable for them, but making everything cost effective for them. And so therefore, by the time they started charging, nobody felt the impact. The provider didn't feel anything because he or she already had so many waivers that it was an home dry run. Let's take China, for example. They already understand that everything you are doing, all our ecosystems, all our industries are tied to the digital space. And because we don't agree with everything they're doing in their policies, but right now, we understand that bit. Private sector should also learn a thing or two. From the public sector, which is government, you need to look at how do you ensure that the average stakeholder, like you and I, I've called to a round table to discuss. Oh, you want to take this product to my village? These are the challenges in my village. These are the opportunities in my village. If we address the challenge, you'll be able to sell. If the Boko Harams are saying they want something, what do they want? There's a lot more that we need to know about why they are fighting. And if anyone is saying, oh, they cannot be squashed, that's a lie. It means there's someone behind it. Come to agriculture, come to oil and gas, come to shipping, go to everyday service, essential services. There is nothing that does not need the internet. There is nothing that empowerment. Within a year, the digital economy should be robust enough to take over the oil sector. There are countries that pay back to their citizens. So we have a good policy. We need to look at it to make it more sensitive. However, it is the execution of the policy and consideration for those who have invested. The telecos, like I said, I'm not fighting for them. I'm not the advocate. But the truth is, I will not bring in an equipment to a country like Nigeria and expect to go bankrupt. No, I shouldn't. Government should be involved. Government should not be involved in the business. Government should be involved in it for the people. And that's why when I look at right of way, it's like, why would you want to charge me for right of way for bringing internet to your state? As a citizen, it's my digital right that right of way must be done as. And if the policy says so, local government officials may need, to come to webinars like this. I don't know, this working group is about connectivity, access, and infrastructure. So we may have to meet with, what's it called now? Local government executives, the chairman. They need to know why it has charged. And the state needs to know why it cannot even charge, considering the fact that they are bringing the internet to every citizen under your flagship. And let me rest it there. It's a passionate discussion. And I don't want to get so,
Thank you, Dr. Akimbo. I think you spoke very so much. It's in inside search of Nigeria, what we're trying to do is ensure that everybody in Nigeria is able to access internet. Yes, like you said, we've got a lot of stoppages, we've got a lot of stumbling blocks here and there. Fundamental, like you've mentioned, local government, states, right of way, it is inhibiting the expansion of internet in Nigeria a lot. The amount being paid for right of way, I've always advocated should be scrapped. At some time, I laughed when I learned that they wanted to charge right of way for using aerial fiber, and I was like, in honest truth, how on earth do you just look for money in every space in Nigeria for things that things on poles? You want people to pay you again, they're not digging the ground. And it looks as if, for the states and local government, like you said, they're looking for how to get money. So everybody is, it's justly for looking as, and they're not looking at the fact that when you have this internet, it actually expands even income for your citizens immediately. So you can actually generate more from taxes than how much you've charged for right of way. And sometimes, from a business perspective, I laugh when I say, the decisions we take is not holistic. We're not looking at a bigger picture. Dr. Awal, I'm going to ask you a question from the group. It says, what makes telecom companies and others to not want to invest in digital infrastructure in the rural communities? And what can be done to promote this digital infrastructure, building it in remote communities? I'll put a caveat. I know that telecom companies are installing in rural communities. I'm very much aware of that, but I'll leave that to you, Dr. Awal, to help us do justice. Then in addition to that is also to look at the fact that these villages that we've spoken about have challenges with cybersecurity. How do we cope these challenges? Over to you, sir.
Okay, I think so. Thank you, Tunde. Honestly, I love the way Engineer Akimbo has expressed almost trying to balance it, but it was so difficult for him to balance it. But for me, just touching in some seconds on what he has actually discussed is the concern around IGR for the state. And ironically, what I come to discover is that when these politicians assume power, they identify people like us, the technocrats, to helm the affairs of some of these ministries. And it is people like us who have the knowledge of how the private organization or how the private companies are making their money that will begin to say, okay, let's get some shares of that wallet. And that's where the problem is coming from. I've traveled far and wide. I went to Niger State trying to see how I can bring connectivity. The question is that what do you put on ground? And just like Tunde has rightly said, sometimes is that you are able to live in the very most important thing. You are going to make more money by the time this connectivity is up and running. Your people are connected, then you can now go after that. But people tend to be too fast. So asking the question raised by one of spectator here regarding the private investment and private organization investing, the most important thing, no private organization is on charity. If at all, if any organization should be on charitable ground, then obviously should be the government. And for us, the government should be an enabler. Engineer Akimbo has rightly answered that. You can't expect me to begin to bring equipment right from airport, right from Port Authority. You are charging me heavy taxes on them. And then meanwhile, my market analysis has shown that I'm going to be making only X amount of money over maybe a period of 2-3 years. Well, in most cases, telecom infrastructure are amortized over a period of 15 years thereabout. And if somebody is not making money right now, I knew you want to collect your money right now, how are you making that investment feasible for that person? So it's one of the major challenge that private organization, the mobile network operators and other IT companies are facing, because most of their ROI is not coming in the first year or second year. It's over a period of, 10 years in some cases. I wouldn't want to go into telling you how much MTN has invested in digital infrastructure in the country. And all this declaration of revenue, revenue is not profit. So we need to understand that clearly. Does not translate into them recovering that money quickly. So how will government address this imbalance? Number one, just like Engineer Kimbo said, you need to begin to introduce some tax reforms. These reforms should be able to give some concession, especially given the fact that government has a policy of digital inclusion. So if you know that a telecom operator is going into a remote locations to deploy networks and what have you, give them that concession. Give them an attractive package that will make them ensure that if they are going to invest that, government will almost like make it very free. In fact, just like we have some state government, the likes of Kaduna, the likes of Jigawa, the likes of Bauchi, the likes of Ogun, they have zeroized their right of way. Come and invest. And today, I can tell you for free, when former Governor Nasir El-Rufai said, zero right of way for my state, Kaduna, before you realize, the likes of MTN have gone to deploy their fiber network, metro fiber connectivity in the entire state. And today, they are enjoying. Kaduna is one of the most digital states, what do you call it, in the country. So this is exactly what we need to be seen from government. Government is an enabler. In some countries outside the world, government have provided that infrastructure. So all investors need to come and latch on it and pay minimal amount of tax. And by so doing, they'll provide the service at almost like a giveaway price. Today, we are paying the heavy price on buying data, on buying connectivity, on buying devices, simply because government is nowhere to be found in trying to help out. The 90,000 kilometer, just like my sister Tinu said, you don't just deploy 90,000 kilometer when you have not created that needs for digital inclusions. When your society is paralyzed with even that knowledge, the majority of people that you want to take that connectivity, they don't even know what they want to use it for. When the state government are busy, you understand, politicizing everything, they are not even talking about smart city. They are not talking about smart security. They are not talking about smart e-health. They are not talking about agri-technology and what have you. All these things need to be integrated. And once it's integrated, you will discover that the ecosystem will charge itself like a turbo engine, and then it will propel, and then we will have all that we're looking for in terms of techno-economics. Tunde, answering your last question, sorry if you can ask me again. I've forgotten the question.
I said, what's your take on the 90,000 kilometer fiber rollout by the Minister of Communication?
Okay, so for me, it's long overdue, you understand, but with a mixed feeling. Long overdue in the sense that if we know we are coming to do 90,000 kilometers of fiber, why in the first place we have to start selling NITEL? Because I can tell you NITEL has almost more than these 90,000 kilometers in the first place. So all we need to do, but I know how fiber is deployed, and sometimes when it gets to certain age, you can miss the, but you don't even have the canes, not to talk of even the plan on how the fiber. But it's a good thing, especially if one thing fundamental is done, and that is bringing private investors into it. Now, I think that's where the minister is also going, so that it will have a kind of sort of like counterfunding. Let it not be like a government wastage as usual. Here comes the money, donor from international community, Nigerian government, treasury, boom. Senate Committee on Communication and what have you, this is my share, take 10,000 kilometers to my area and what have you. Meanwhile, there are no any digital solution that will actually play on that connectivity. So we are monitoring because we are actively part of it as BCN, being the biggest connectivity company in the North. And we hope that the plans that we have as a private organization will integrate it into what the government wants to have, so that there's no duplication. Already the likes of MTN can tell you they have close to 20,000 kilometers of fiber connectivity. Airtel has what have you. So the question is that how do we integrate this in such a way that at least once it's done, we make it very meaningful, and then it will be for the economy and everybody will be home and dry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Awal. I think this breakdown is helping us to look at other things, and in terms of what we need to create a resilient digital infrastructure within the country. Dr. Akimba, I'll come to you, please. How do you think we can build local capacity for youth, for startups, for institutions that will drive digital inclusion within the country? And if we look at today, let's imagine that by the year 2030, the digital divide is closed. So we've been able to bridge all the gap. What changes will we have made between now and then, to have closed this bridge?
Thank you so much. But when Dr. Awal was responding, he mentioned e-health, e-agriculture. That answers where we will get to from the last question. That is where we will get to, where you don't have to move too much to get data, where you can be in your house, fill a form, and your passport comes to the Nigerian Postal Agency, because the Nigerian Postal Agency can be e-postal or e-agency, whatever name you want to give it, and still be able to bring that document to you. I'm not talking about other form of agency. I'm talking about the Nigerian Postal Agency from centuries ago, where you can take a train from somewhere in Abuja to another spot in Abuja, just because everything is connected. And where do we start from? Let me tell you a small story. I was at a seminar. Okay, I think it's West Africa, Nigeria, I went last. And I was telling someone about my youthful days, being curious, wanting to read book in Dokpemu, and I went to use the library there. That was what we knew, library. And there was no internet, just library. And there was this other person that is working in Main One that said, oh, I used to use that library in Dokpemu close to Ansarudin, which means even with our age difference, he used that same library. Back in the 90s, I think we started getting to know about the internet. I started something called Telecos, Telecoms and Internet Subscribers Forum. I was an Aluta person. I went to Ife, so don't mind me. So I used that, to pitch for local content. I pitched against another, body. And I said, oh, when the local content telecom company starts, it will be better than this other one. And then it failed because when they started, or until to date, they're yet to beat the giants. And when I'm saying the giants, I'm sorry. Like I said, I was trying to avoid it. But MTN seems to be the giants right now. They have invested a lot of money in reaching at least an average mile that I can call a 75 or 78%. I don't want to give them more than that so that they don't get too big. So at the end of the day, my library that I was projecting was supposed to be a library that had computers coming in. It didn't come in as I wanted. What we had was cyber cafe. But in the US, what they did was they brought those computers to the library. And the libraries evolved from just being libraries of books to libraries with computers. Then we went from computers to laptop. And I was still expecting my library to have a laptop. It didn't have. So how do we get everyone involved? How do we reach the grassroots? Let's start from community network. I run Community Networks Africa. And what we're advocating for in Community Networks Africa is that if you have a community network and you have done something great, talk to us. Let's use your own experience, having done your need assessment. Let's use your own experience and share it with others who also have community networks in Africa. The Internet Society has gone so far to ensure that African countries where we have ISOP, that is Internet Society chapters, have funding to create community network. There's one in Tanzania, there's in Kenya, there's in Rwanda, and so forth and so on. Even in Nigeria, we have one. So one way or the other, all of these community networks, if we can capitalize in working with them and, empower, what's it called? Those kind of smart screens. You have smart screens. You have connectivity. It's a small place, but that small place can train 50 persons every day. If that small place is connected like engineer Chinwade was trying to describe, a guy that goes to a university. I do that in my area here, where I put on my my MTN 5G, 4G, and then it reaches out to my nearby office where there are laptops. People go in there, they browse to trade because they're supervised, not to abuse it. That is the best way to reach grassroots. We have a nearby hospital that some of the staff, we have been training them on how to gather information because the health sector was my first love before I moved to technology. When I discovered that I could talk to technology and technology will send database from one clinic to the other. So that the health center benefits from the use of technology, also the internet. Now, look at agricultural sector within the community. If they begin to benefit from it, they know how to market, like you said. The other time when you were responding to my statement, it will be an opportunity for them. They can put their stock in one place online. The rail station will become more useful. They will come and pick it up. We have rail station storage cargoes. That's all they do. They just pick up goods and move them to the next point of call. The Nigerian Postal Agency, which you already know, unlike we killed Nitel, unlike we just snuffed out life from Nitel, we also go into the position of moving those small cargoes to their areas of pickups. And that solves the whole case. So to empower the average person, empower community networks and create more community networks. That is what the Internet Society is trying to do. That is why at the Internet Society Nigeria chapter, we have started what you call a regional engagement. We understand Nigeria is split into 6. So ISTOC at the moment has appointed coordinators and supervisors for 6 regions across Nigeria. And within those 6 regions, we're expecting that each coordinator and supervisor are able to muster a team in every state. So what we do in state A also affects states B. So that one way or the other, there is capability testing and there's capacity engagement. This is to develop the mindset of the average people, either from the urban area or to the rural area. Another takeaway from this is that we want to ensure that our connectivity issues also begins to give reports. Oh, this state has peculiar challenges. And so we attempt every peculiar challenges with a particular basic approach that actually answers or addresses that situation. Furthermore, we believe that with the regional engagement that the Internet Society Nigerian chapter has embarked upon, we can reach everybody. Because we also have something that you can use online to train those you empower to go offline, like Dr. Awal mentioned. And what is that? The Internet Society Learning Platform. The Internet Society Learning Platform is a free basic platform that can train you on the essentials of your leadership, that can train you about data privacy, global digital footprint, internet governance, encryption, and the likes. So if we begin to have our Nigerian ambassadors who are using the Internet Society Learning Platform, then your certification can push you to your local area as a way of saying, no, go and do your entrepreneurship or internship, whichever one you want to call it. But there's something called entrepreneurship, which we are trying to practice within the Nigerian chapter. You know, making people within our community begin to evolve innovation that solves the issue that we as ISOP, Internet Society, are trying to solve, which is always in line with the objective. Let's look at it that one way or the other, this platform will keep educating us more, because I will get educated when someone asks me a question and then be able to address the challenge as we move forward. I hope this addresses the question, and I hope the audience begin to see themselves as one of the advocates or ambassadors that will be going to the show to help us make sure that we resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akimbo. So as we round up, Dr. Awal, can you just give us what do you think we need to do as a country in the midst of what you've spoken about that will help us to have a resilient digital infrastructure in Nigeria? I know there's a lot being done both by the MNOs, the public institutions. What do you think might be able to fast track that so that we're where we ought to be? It looks as if Nigeria is lagging behind, to say the truth. But what do you think, in your own opinion, sir?
Okay, so I wouldn't say to where we should be, but maybe where we are starting to be. And honestly, we seem to have so many challenges today. So fundamentally, let me tell you one of our biggest challenge, and that is power. So the question is that what is the level of our preparedness to address power-related challenges? And this is exactly what the engineer Akimbo has been saying. We seem to have left virtually every responsibility of providing digital infrastructure to private investors. Not until recently when I see government, and I wouldn't want to call their effort kind of cosmetic effort, but not until recently, but it's not enough. And all the policy guidelines that are coming from NIDA, from NCC and what have you, is not enough. Ever wonder that NCC has the USPF project, and then ever wonder that almost 70% of the USPF project is going into something totally different from providing digital infrastructure? So why can't the government begin to focus on that kind of fund, you understand, in making sure that at least we bridge the gap? That's number one. Number two, every day, both telecom operators and operators like me wake up with fiber vandalization. And to today, there's no any policy that says if somebody is caught vandalizing your fiber. And so let me tell you who are the usual culprits. They are construction companies. And then there's nothing that is done to these construction companies. Worse still, when I report the matter to NCC, they say, keep it coming. When we file as much as possible, then we can now have reason to go and cry to other legislators and what have you to enact laws that will make sure that there's compensation and what have you. So that's it. So I think until we begin to mature to understand that we need to protect this infrastructure that we have, then we are not yet there. Until we begin to understand that, okay, we need to make this thing as easy and accessible as possible. We are not yet there. As much as I appreciate what Bosun, the Minister of Digital Economy, is doing, but I think we need to understand that, okay, the backbone for all these digital services, AI, and what have you, are the digital infrastructure. Now, the question is that in terms of fiber laying, how well do we have all these machineries in country? In fact, locally made in such a way that people can easily go to market and buy it. In terms of fiber laying, how well do we train our people to be able to have the skills required? You talked about fiber on the air. Why would somebody go and start throwing cable on the air when you know obviously you are making it so vulnerable today? Tomorrow you have to go and replace that fiber. You understand? So there are lots that we need to do. And then also we need to also sensitize people to make sure that they understand what that digital infrastructure is. It's a national asset. You don't play with it, because if you play with it, you think you are undoing somebody, then too bad. It's supposed to be something that we all protect it. Then also we need to make sure that we have the right investors. Similar to what we have seen, if not for the likes of MTN, the likes of Airtel, you understand, we have seen so many operators coming on board. Today, we don't have any one of them. The remaining ones is by the grace of God. Nine Mobile is nearing the going into CPU, what I would call CPU. Glow, they are also surviving by the grace of God. So I think the government needs to be very deliberate in making sure that this kind of private organization with heavy, what do you call it, investment should not be allowed to go like that. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we need to ensure that we incentivize all the investors to go into the rural areas. Because if you don't incentivize them by way of tax holiday, by way of making the equipment cheaper, by way of access fund today, God knows how much government is spending in order to provide mortgage facility to people, what do you call it, facility to people. But I hardly hear about digital infrastructure, government rising up to the occasion. Even the Bank of Industry that we're seeing, that we're talking about, I don't see anybody who has gone there to access. And then also the international community, they have a lot of money claimed, you understand, to say that it's meant to help, what do you call it, digital infrastructure expansion. The last time I was engaging with USAID, who they said that they have about $15 million. And to tomorrow, in fact, thanks to Trump, who has come and changed the table and turned the table upside down. So that fund might not be accessible. GIZ, they are also there, they have a fund, but accessing those funds, they are pretty challenges. And sometimes they have to insist that, oh, they can only channel the funds through government. Meanwhile, by the time you channel it through the government, you might end up not seeing the work. So I think we need to do the right things. And then we need to ensure that we have all these things in place and be rest assured that we will have the resilience infrastructure that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Awal. Thank you very much. Engineer Tinade, in one word, resilient digital infrastructure.
Okay, I want to just say that the change we all desire begins with us. And just the same way you have a value chain, I can be the one to pick the stones, another one can be the one to assemble it, another one can be the one to put the structure. And I think from my training in internet society is a multi-stakeholder approach we'll look at it. And I was trying to remember a name and I had to just Google it as well on this call. There was somebody I interviewed from South Africa sometimes ago. He's from Stellenbosch. And this man said he saw his daughter reading a book and the daughter also had access to internet. And the thought came to his head that this girl has a book. She also has internet access. But there are a number of girls in South Africa, they don't even have books, how much more internet access. And they started what they call the Kayamandi fiber time, whereby it threw area fiber, but it did not stop at throwing the area fiber. Do you know that through this connectivity it brought to the township, they started educating them. They embedded cryptocurrency so that people do activities, they earn coins to be able to purchase the internet access. That is necessity being a mother of invention. And that's why I started with the change we are all desiring also starts from us, from our own corner, from our own side. What can we do? We heard Dr. Kimbo saying, oh, he turns on his hotspot and creates that so that people get trained. Another one is Ali Baba, who happens to be a very famous person who, through his own initiative of doing the Taobao then, he created connectivity in the rural communities of China. And he started with just 112 before he became 200 and something. And guess what? Because he was able to do that connectivity, now wastage stop. Dr. Awa was talking about farmers planting and don't have anybody buying. They don't even have storage. So imagine they plant, they harvest, and everything even waste because the middleman will now come and say, let me buy it for 10x. If you don't want to sell it, they don't want it to get damaged or spoiled. They will sell it even when they know it does not cut the numbers. But because he was able to do that connectivity, he did not only just grow his own e-commerce side, but now he empowered people. And gradually, they started bringing financial inclusion. They started bringing even entrepreneurship education. That means just from one thing, we can even create so many. But we have to start from somewhere. The government needs to do their part. Private sector needs to do their part. In our own establishment, what are we doing as form of CSR to also get people to get connected? If we want to see that 2030, that everything is fine. There is something very significant that Dr. Akibo mentioned about postal service and all that. Do you know that the USP in US is largely funded by the US government? They don't make money of their own. But guess what? Every community, there is no way that USP doesn't get to. That is because the government knows that if we're able to deliver all of this, people get at least connected one way or the other. They can get that money from other things, other transactions that happen. Same way with the right of way that we said. Many a times it's so bad that you want to do something and people are asking, what's in for me? So that culture is something we really need to work on. And ownership is another thing. You know, when you educate, I will quickly say this as I round up this one. I went for a meeting one time in a bank, and the CIO said something. And since that day, even as I'm in business to make money, I had the mindset shift. He said, don't see your connectivity like you give connectivity to the bank branches and you make money out of it to pay your salaries. He says, see it as if your connectivity, if you don't make it optimal online and able to serve us, there is this father that is right there in front of the teller that needs to withdraw money to go and settle the wife's hospital bill, and time is counting for him. Just because of downtime, this person is not able to do this. There is somebody that the child is just going, they ask that we do this bank draft and he's not able to do it. And because of all this 5 minutes lag, 10 minutes lag, things spoil that they are not able to be recovered. And you know, he gave me a different, let me say, assignment to view even what I do and how critical it is. So that change we want begins with us. Let's do it from our own corner and don't let's keep quiet. We create the awareness every day, one day, it becomes something and it becomes valuable. Thank you so
much. Thank you so much, Engineer Tinuade. Dr. Akimbo, a word to round up, sir.
Yeah, in one word, right?
Yeah, one word.
In one word, public-private partnership. If we get digital public infrastructures are set up, waivers are assigned, people capacity driven engagements are created, and we're there. Thank you. Did I round up? That's all.
Yeah, you did.
One sentence.
You really captured it all. You know, and that's what we're all about at Internet Society. We're trying to ensure that the private-public partnership is strengthened. It's in place. You know, it's not in Nigeria. We looked more at it as a private business. Then the public also feels no, we own some part of it, which causes all this back and forth. From all what we've said today, you know, the right-of-way issue and all the issues we have is just because there's no synergy between all the stakeholders involved. If we get that right synergy, we will not be where we are. We will have moved way farther than where we are. We'll be doing a lot much more than what we do at the moment. But I think we're already on the right path. We're trying to create as much as we can so that we could get there. The moment we get there, I know we can move forward. And like I'll say, we're so grateful for today because this fireside chat has been enabled in honesty from the president of Internet Society Nigerian chapter, Engineer Kunle Olondare. He's not here or is unavoidably absent, but we need to really, really show our appreciation to him for providing the platform, providing the support and everything required for us to get to where we are, which is very good. Yeah, this is a start for us. It's trying to create the right awareness, move the needle in the right place so that we actually can get the notch that we're looking for within the country. Hopefully, we'll be able to influence policy decisions. We'll be able to influence a lot much more so that the people on the street will have internet. A lot of the underserved areas will have internet. It will be affordable as well. And we could get to a point where we're sure that internet is available. It's something that we easily can have and we can move ahead from there. Because without it, it's a far cry when we look at organizations and places like China where it's so easy for them to get it. And here we're in Nigeria, we have huge cable landing station here. We have huge capacity, but the capacity we have is not being translated to what we should have. So in honest truth, we're so grateful for today. We're grateful for every support we received from all of our bosses here. Engineer Kunle Olondare, as I mentioned, the president of the Internet Society of Nigeria, as well as Engineer Felix Olu, the president of Nigeria Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, from also Engineer Funshaw Adebayo. We've had a lot of support from different stakeholders, and I think this is just a start for us as Access Infrastructure Working Group. We're going to create a lot much more of this fireside chat. We're going to bring it so much to our space. Let's get a lot of people involved. Let's get people sensitized. I think one of the major things that has been asked even today on this platform is the fact that how do we get people sensitized? How do we get this information to people? We won't leave it just to Internet Society of Nigeria alone. We won't leave it to Dr. Akimbo alone. We won't leave it to Dr. Awal alone. We won't leave it to Engineer Tinoade alone. Let's come together as a group. Let's join hands together and let's make Nigeria a better place where internet is accessible and affordable to everybody. Engineer Kibo would like you to round up for us as the Honorable Vice President, Internet Society of Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that opportunity, and thank you for a job well done. To wrap it up in a nutshell, I first have to give you a word from the president. He would love, this to happen, if possible, every month. The onus is on you, this working group. And I looked at the chat room, our number only increased and has not passed a particular limit. So that means what we are saying is important to some set of people. If all of us on this platform keep up, this discussion, I know by the next 3 months, this working group would have been able to achieve more than a milestone, which is ensuring the PPP and promoting all the suggestions that we have had here. Kudos to the working group. If it is possible, please give them a round of applause in a digital manner. There's nothing that's impossible nowadays. Okay, having said that, on behalf of the #1 citizen of the Internet Society Nigerian chapter, President Engineer Kunle Olondare, we want to appreciate everyone that has attended the event. We want to appreciate all the speakers. I want to say we look forward to further engagement apart from this particular engagement. Join us on Telegram. The Telegram link is t.me/ISOCNG chapter. Join our social media handles. Our social media handles are at ISOCNG chapter. And please never shy away from speaking up. We have created regional rooms on WhatsApp. Please try and participate. And we look forward again, finally, to more webinars coming your way. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Akimbo. Thank you for joining us. Wish all of us a pleasant, wonderful rest of the day and the week. And we hope to see you at our next Fireside webinar. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Awal, for coming on board.
Thank you, Tino.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Howard, for coming. We appreciate and your wonderful insight. And to our very own Dr. Akibo. Thank you, sir.
We'd love for us any day for Dr. Akimbo.
Engineer Tunde.
Everyone, I really
Everybody
appreciate it.
from Infrastructure and Access and Connectivity Working Group.
Thank you.
Everyone that joined us today, and to our president in absentia too. Thank you. Thank you.
Tunde, well done. Well done. Your smiles was encouraging, you know. And your voice, that voice. Oh, okay.
Moderator voice.
Yes, moderation voice.
Thank you, Dr. Akibo. We're just trying to do the little we can. You know, let's create as much awareness around these things, you know, because
yes.
people don't know, you know, a lot we've said today around the connected community. I'm sure most people are now aware of it. I know we're here, we're looking for what is not missing in honest truth. And you know, unless we get to the point where we're sharing as much as possible to the entire stakeholders, populace, we won't get there. You know, talking about right of way, I've been a proponent of. I don't see a reason why we're collecting right of way from people. It makes you're not making for me from my business perspective. I'd rather have you pay taxes on services than tell you to come and pay for right of way. You know, provide that service. Then I can tax the business. Who are, you know, and I'll make more money than how much you think I'm going to get off from you. So, but
I remember when I was running a cyber cafe, and I told them to use our